Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Blame It on the Stars podcast. We are more than just your weekly horoscope. We spill all the tea on what's going on in the universe so you can blame your problems on the stars. It is Jade here.
And it's Kara.
And you're going to need to fasten your seatbelts for this episode because we've got a really wild one up ahead. Before we even get into what on earth we're going to talk about, which is Taurus season, please be prepared to maybe take notes and have a pen, pencil, piece of paper, an iPad if you're one of those people, because this is a wild one. It is a crazy one. And yeah, but before we get into it, Taurus season means Kara's birthday is approaching. So everybody say happy birthday to Kara. Kara, how do you feel about Taurus season as a Taurus?
Well, I definitely wish that it was a little bit of an easier Taurus season, but it is what it is. We're going to make the most of it.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it. But before we talk about it, this is your regularly scheduled PSA. Podcast ratings are a thing. If you can please leave us some stars, however many you think we are worth. That helps us to know how we're doing, what you all think, because we can't speak to you, so we have no idea. But if you leave us some stars or even a little review if you're on Apple Podcasts, it helps us know what you think about what we're doing here, and we appreciate it. And whenever you share the podcast with a friend, it makes us feel good because it means that you think that this podcast is worth recommending. So if you think that way and know someone who should know everything about Taurus season, if you want to be a good friend and give them the heads up, go ahead and pass that information along. And with that being said, I guess let's just get right into it because this is a lot. We've got a lot. Taurus season. Taurus season begins when the sun enters Taurus on April 19th at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is your regular reminder that the date, time zone, all of that have been pulled from the website astroseek.com because every week, for some reason, someone always argues me about the time and the day or whatever. You have the source that I'm getting it from. If you have a different source you would like me to get it from, please let me know. Anyways, regardless, Taurus season begins April 19th at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And when the sun makes its way into Taurus, we all start to take on that Taurus-like energy. So with Aries season, it was the same thing. We all became more like an Aries. During Taurus season, we all become more like a Taurus. And then when we move on to Gemini season, we'll become more like a Gemini. And what does it mean to be a Taurus? I think we should ask Kara, what are the Taurus things we should expect?
Yeah, so I think we all can look forward to things maybe slowing down a little bit. I know that we started a lot of new things during Aries season. It was a lot of adventurous, go out there type of energy. And now that the sun's in Taurus, it's more about just enjoying yourself and doing things that, just make you feel good, make you feel happy. So I'm really excited for that. Taurus has a little bit of a bad reputation for being boring or a little bit lazy, but we're not going to be focusing on that this Taurus season. We're going to focus more on just taking things easy and just letting ourselves kind of vibe.
Yeah, all the Tauruses that I know are the type of people who don't want to rush anything. And as a Taurus moon, I appreciate that. There's a lot of beauty in taking your time, slowing things down, and really taking a moment to really enjoy the whole process, enjoy the whole thing. Taurus rules the senses, and they're known to have really good taste in literally everything, including, Kara, you're going to laugh at me, including sheets, which every Taurus I know has told me that you can get really good Calvin Klein sheets from TJ Maxx. Multiple Taurus people have told me that, so anyways, that just speaks to their character. But yeah, Taurus really likes to enjoy the smells that smell good, the things that feel good, the finer things in life, which is why the episode's titled Luxury, because Taurus tends to really enjoy the luxurious, like I said, the finer things in life, enjoying things that are of good taste, good food, good, music, things that smell good, things that are cozy. And that's really what this energy is all about, which, for the most part, because there's other things that happen during Taurus season that make this not really the most cozy, but the cozy vibes are definitely there for sure. We have used this reference before and we'll use it again, which is the gardening reference. This time 2 years ago, I had planted some seeds at the end of Aries season, beginning of Taurus season, in that middle area, literal seeds for an actual garden. And during Taurus season, that was the slow growth, the sprouting of my herbs that I was growing. It was like basil. But that's kind of what happens during Taurus season, right? We had Aries season where we really started taking initiative on certain things, and Taurus season when we like allow those things to grow and to be nurtured and, like we said, take their time. Kara, do you have anything else, Taurus, that we should expect or embrace?
Oh, yes. I do think that Taurus, as I've said before, are kind of known for being a little bit more stubborn. But as I always say, being stubborn also makes you very resilient. So if there are things that you're working on, things that you want to do, this could be a good time because of all of that like fixed Taurus energy to just kind of like keep going and keep working towards the things that you're working on. I also can say that Taurus does have a little bit of an appreciation for things that are familiar. Like there's a little, I don't know, like comfort in doing like the same things or having some type of routine. So that might be something that's on your mind.
Yeah, and as far as the stubborn thing goes, I usually find that more often than not, it's because there's really good boundaries, and firm boundaries sometimes are absolutely necessary. If you need an excuse to really be firm on your boundaries and be firm on your beliefs, then Taurus season's definitely the time for you. There is also this shift in practicality, thinking about things more practically, I should say. But going back to what Kara was saying about not wanting change or liking things that are familiar, Taurus season is absolutely going to challenge that. If I had to summarize Taurus season in a sentence, it's probably defining your comfort zone and getting out of your comfort zone at the same time. And I think that's a perfect segue into what the aspects are to the sun in Taurus. So the sun in Taurus has some interesting aspects. So the first aspect the actual sun in the sign of Taurus makes is a conjunction to Uranus. And this happens on May 5th. And this is really a time where who you are really needs to change. Not in like a bad way, but more so in, right, if the sun is our identity and Uranus is about change, it's more so about recognizing that certain parts of you are ready to evolve, ready to change. Maybe you're really just tired of being known for a certain thing or for being a certain way. I remember there's like this quote, I think it was like, I'm definitely not going to say the quote word for word correctly, but it was something along the lines of change always occurs when we're sick of our own BS or something along those lines. When we're sick of doing things the way that they once were. That's kind of what you can expect on May 5th, is this sort of breaking free of, the who you were, who you once were. It's change.
2 days later, on May 7th, we have the sun sextile Mars, and this is going to give us a little bit of boost of energy and motivation. If you're someone who was not very, excited for the Taurus, slow moving, cozy vibes, and this will be the perfect day for you because, again, we have Mars there helping us to take action and do things that we want to do. It's a really good day to kind of just be out and about. You might find that you need to advocate for yourself as well. Sometimes that's something that comes up with Mars and just needing to kind of like be bold and be direct and kind of just do your own thing in that way.
On May 13th, the sun is conjunct the North Node, and this is kind of a day where we were just saying with the sun conjunct Uranus, you're like, okay, you know what? I need to be different. The sun conjunct the North Node on May 13th may tell you who you need to be, because the North Node kind of deals with, the direction we're heading in life. And this can almost sort of give you some sort of insight on what your purpose is, and like more so like who you need to be. Who is the person exactly that. Who is the person you need to be?
Yeah. And then on May 15th, another 2 days later, we have the sun square Saturn. And on that same day, it also will be sextile Neptune. So we have some interesting things going on here. Usually when the sun is square Saturn, that can make you a little bit hard on yourself, because the sun represents like who we are, and Saturn is that more like disciplined type of energy. So you really can be maybe a little bit too hard on yourself. So I just want to give the, disclaimer or advice, I guess, to give yourself credit for all of the things that you have been doing, because when there are squares, it can feel like things are tense and they're not working out the way that you want to. And then with Neptune being there, making it a little bit more confusing, like, you could be like, oh, I've done all of these things, like, why hasn't it worked out? Or I did X, Y, and Z so that this wouldn't happen, and it's still happening, like, why? And you can get lost in that. Or the other option, I guess, or, maybe validate all of your concerns and emotions first, and then move on towards just kind of like trusting the process and trusting that things will work out, even if you're not sure how they will in that very moment, and just kind of like, just seeing how things go, taking it slow, being gentle with yourself, taking things day by day, because it can be a little bit rough, because you might feel, like I was saying, a little bit restricted, or like you're not able to do the things that you want to do. But Neptune is there, and it has that more optimistic side to it as well. So we'll see we'll see how it goes. I really am hoping that this ends up balancing itself out, so that it's not so much on the Saturn square the sun side of things.
Well, I will say you'll probably feel pretty good a few days later, coming out on top on May 19th with the sun trine Pluto. This is all about kind of recognizing what your personal power is and really tapping into that like inner strength type vibe. I also will say too, because again, there was that like slight change, recognizing your purpose type energy before, and then you might have been feeling a little bit down on yourself, etc. Like the sun trine Pluto is like allowing you to really like learn and grow and transform from all of those experiences that you once had. And like I said, once again, just step into your personal power. Let's talk about what happens next in Taurus season. On April 21st at 6:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturn squares the North Node, and these are not the vibes we want to have. This is just really not it. I'm being so transparent. I'm not going to lie. It's really not fun. This is kind of like feeling like things are not aligning in the world. Things are not working out the way we want them to, right? If the North Node, again, is the direction we're kind of heading in, and Saturn is, in Aquarius, bringing out some, regulations in the tech world. And, the North Node is in Taurus, and it's pushing us towards a more like comfortable lifestyle. I just see this as some big conflict of interest. On that note, I'm very curious to see what will happen with crypto on this day. Very curious. But outside of that, or even like Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter, I think.
Yes, I saw that.
Like, I just feel like weird stuff like that it's already...
Yeah, so this is definitely something that's happening on a more like collective level, if that makes any sense, just because we're talking about Saturn, which is, one of the outer planets, and the North Node. So you might feel this like on a personal level as well, or it could just be things that you're seeing, online or in the news or stuff like that. I also can say that it might feel like things are coming up that you quote unquote, is it quote unquote?
Yeah.
I'm doing air quotes, like I thought I dealt with this type energy because, it's dealing with the nodes, which has to do with our direction in life, the things that we already have, like accomplished and are familiar with, and then, where we're headed. So with Saturn being there, making things a little bit more difficult, you might be questioning things, or you might find things come up and you're like, yeah, like I thought that like I moved on from the situation, but why is it still like low key lingering? But yeah, weird vibes. And it's just, it's just a day. It's just one day. It's just one transit in the astrology. So, well, it'll be fine.
Will it? Because on April 29th at 2:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pluto retrogrades in Capricorn. This is pretty standard, though. Pluto retrogrades. Often it will stay retrograde for a while. This is not groundbreaking. This is not new. This has happened so many times already. But to recap on what exactly this entails, reflecting on authority, specifically, maybe government, because Pluto is in Capricorn, which deals with, those type of things. Again, just authority in general. We'll have a chance to really look back and revise and see what things are working, what things are not working, and kind of go from there. Again, this is one that's more so on a societal level, actually way more than on a personal level.
Yeah, so if you are familiar with your chart, it definitely would be worth looking into what house in your chart is ruled by Capricorn to get a little bit more insight into what area of your life this is impacting. But like we said, this happens often. Pluto retrogrades a lot. It is more of a collective thing, but you definitely can look into your chart to see how it will affect you a little bit more personally.
Well, this one will impact you personally for sure. That same day, April 29th at 6:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mercury enters its home sign of Gemini. And this is a really good time for speaking and speaking a lot and learning new things and keeping your mind active, following your curiosity, letting yourself explore as many new topics as possible. You might find that your desire to read up on the news or pop culture, current events, things like that can be way more appealing, and just getting insight on things, being in the know are all things that kind of happen during Mercury and Gemini. I personally think that it's a fun time because, one, like I said, you get to learn a lot and pick up on a lot of new things that you maybe wouldn't have before. But people tend to be really social during the Mercury and Gemini time, since our minds become a lot more active and we're more talkative and chatty and even funny, very into the memes during the Mercury and Gemini time.
Yeah, Mercury really likes being in Gemini, so I'm just so excited for things to be, I don't know, just going a little bit more smoothly, I guess, in terms of communication, or even, on social media, since that's a big way that people communicate, whether that is, like Jade was just saying, memes or other things that you are kind of posting, or, I don't know, reading, listening to, if you listen to other podcasts, stuff like that.
It'll be important to pay attention to this one because, as you'll hear fairly soon within this episode, there is a Mercury retrograde in Taurus season. So with that being said, April 29th onward, you should really pay attention to what things you're saying, who you're talking to, what information you're getting, etc., because things will flip on their head and be a little bit different later in Taurus season. We'll talk about that later, but more importantly, we'll go way into detail about Mercury and Gemini, Mercury in retrograde. Much later, they will have their own episodes, and actually everything else that we're about to talk about, starting with Mercury in Gemini, will have its own episode. So if you hear something, you're like, wow, I really want to know more about that, we got you. Tune in every week, every Monday, because we will be breaking down in way more detail and giving you the tips on how to handle it and survive it all and make the most of it and thrive, with the astrology every week, every Monday. So if you hear anything and you're like, I really want to know about Mercury and Gemini, we'll talk all about it. Let's move on. April 30th at 4:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we experience solar eclipse in Taurus. And There will be some big changes that occur, mostly on a societal level, but it also could happen on a personal level. The solar eclipse has an aspect to Uranus, and like I said, we'll talk way more about what exactly this eclipse entails when we do an episode on it next week. But just know that with that being said, like, your comfort zone is going to, need to change. You're going to have to step outside of your comfort zone, get familiar with the unfamiliar real quick on a personal level, on a societal level, because things are changing.
Yeah, the only constant is change if you want a mantra. For those who are unsure, the solar eclipse is a new moon. So we're talking about a new moon in Taurus, but it happens around the nodes. So that's what makes it a solar eclipse. And these are always times of change. I believe we might have had one
We did
already. I don't remember how close it was, but we're kind of starting a new eclipse cycle, or we're at the very beginning of it, at least. So this is going to definitely be new, in addition to the fact that it's, we have the Uranus aspects, which makes it different and new anyways. But yeah, it's kind of like the start of a new cycle, if you will, or again, still in the beginning stages of that cycle. So a little bit exciting, but expect things to kind of change and for things to be shaken up a little bit.
And these will all be things that pertain to Taurus specifically. So as we're saying change, and you're like, well, what change? Like, well, for one, the comfort zone, as we said, that is very Taurus. But two, maybe your boundaries might change in a good way, for the most part, I would hope. But also, two, finances, things in nature. Do you have any other ones? Any other things you think might need to change up during this time?
I don't know. I am just thinking back to, remember when Starbucks and all the tourist stuff, and they
Yes.
ran out of oat milk and stuff like that. So the food industry.
Yeah, food for sure. I know I keep talking about crypto these days, but I think it's really important to pay attention to it, even if you don't understand it, because the way we handle money is changing for sure. And even if you're not into it, it's really, the times are changing. The way the world is moving is changing, and there's a lot of interesting juice going on in that world. So I just keep bringing it up because it's so relevant, and it's going to continue to be relevant. And I think that this astrology is provoking it more. And also, we talked a lot about the Great Resignation. Again, that's the comfort zone, moving slow, boundaries. 40-hour work week is what? I don't know. I'm curious about this eclipse on the societal level, but also stay posted for what happens on a personal level, because it's just a big day. But let's move on. We'll talk more next week. May 2nd at 12:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Venus enters Aries. So we can expect our love lives to pick up speed quickly. Whether you are single, in a relationship, or it's complicated situationship, Venus in Aries will definitely bring some new, fresh energy. Venus in Aries tends to fall in love fast and fall out of love fast. Do with that information what you will. That could mean being really interested in something quickly and not being interested in it anymore. Following your impulse, following your spontaneity. So if you're single and looking for things to pick up, take advantage of the Venus and Aries energy. Go out, go on dates. And if you're in a relationship, maybe do more exciting dates. I always think couples just sit on the couch and watch a movie. In my head, that's really what relationships turn into. So maybe get off the couch and go outdoors.
Yeah, Aries is a very passionate sign too, and Venus does deal with creativity. So if you are an artist or into any type of art, and I mean that in the broadest way possible, whether you make art or consume art in movies or online or in other ways, I don't know, museums, listening to music, you might find that you're just very passionate and very driven towards that area of your life as well, in addition to Jade was just talking about, all of our relationships. It definitely is a good time to be social and do things and be active. And again, it's balancing out that slow, chill Taurus energy by still giving us a little bit of that Aries type of exciting and active type of vibe.
On May 3rd at 6:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do experience a little baby transit that is kind of notable. Jupiter sextiles Pluto. This is a pretty good time in terms of, checking in on our growth and transformation, seeing how far along we all are in our personal growth and development journey, since Jupiter is in Pisces, which is pretty spiritual. This could be a little bit of a spiritual day for you, but it is something that happens more on it's the outer planets, so you might not really feel it. And I honestly don't really know how much of this will show up in the world. I could be wrong. Something cool might happen during this time, but I just wanted to mention it because that's nice.
Yeah, it is like some positive, I don't know, like growth type of energy. Usually when we talk about Pluto, we talk about change being a little bit more, difficult or just like a lot emotionally, which it can be, but having the sextile to Jupiter definitely makes it a little bit more positive, a little bit more optimistic, and kind of being like, I don't know, in a place where you can really just like acknowledge and accept how far you've come.
The next thing that happens, we already mentioned, on May 10th at 7:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mercury retrogrades in Gemini, and this is where we experience the classic, in my opinion, Mercury retrograde. It doesn't get any more Mercury retrograde than a Mercury retrograde in Gemini, because it is literally, by definition, just all about miscommunication. It is all about running into just problems with the way you communicate with other people. I do want to mention, you might lose some things might go missing, things can go wrong. Usually we obviously see this in like the things with your car. So if you're someone who drives, like, definitely get your car serviced. That's always our PSA with Mercury retrograde, but get your car serviced before May 10th. Do it sooner rather than later. You might be running late to things, or accidentally double scheduling yourself, or forgetting your keys, or sending the wrong text to the wrong person, pressing send on an email when you're halfway through.
Yeah, another thing too to do like in advance, definitely if you're listening to this before May 10th, would be to like back up your computer, your phone, or like save extra copies of things. We know that sometimes, there's car troubles that you can hopefully attempt to take preventative measures if, your check engine light or your low tire pressure, like the symbol thing, is on in your car. But as we know, there's a lot of things that happen during Mercury retrograde that you can't plan for, but we can take a few steps like backing up our phones and stuff like that to make sure it goes very smoothly. And I will say that, be very mindful of the things that you are saying and what you are putting out into the world, because there could be a little bit of like gossip or like rumors or things like that going around. And I don't know, I just think it's better to stay out of that. Like, obviously it's okay to like talk about yourself and vent and things like that, but there's some parts of gossip or even just things like on social media that actually do have like harmful effects. So it's just something to be mindful of.
Wait, on that note though, be careful who you vent to, because not everyone has your best interest. I do want to just throw that in there, because venting is a really great thing to do. Like, there's been instances, not with me personally, but I know that this has happened for other people in my life, where they had been complaining about someone or a situation or something to someone who they thought they could trust, and then that person in turn like used it against them. So I don't know. Just be careful. I always think it's good to just be careful with your words. But venting is nice. So know who you can vent to and who you can't vent to. Anyways, that exact same day, May 10th at 7:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we experience a big change that will be more obvious next year. So if you remember last year, Jupiter entered Pisces in the summer for just a little bit, and it gave us a little teaser on what we can expect in 2022. We're getting the exact same little sneak preview of 2023 this year, because Jupiter enters Aries on May 10th at 7:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's only going to be here for a little bit, so whatever happens May 10th onward, I forget the exact day that Jupiter leaves Aries. But during its time here, just take note of the things that are happening, where your energy is moving, what direction you want to, go in, and where you're starting to receive some good luck in, because that theme is going to be way more, important next year. And also too, like, if what Kara was saying, if you know what house Aries is in your chart, like, those are the things you want to be on the lookout for during the Jupiter and Aries time. But don't you have Jupiter and Aries?
Yeah, I do. That's what I was going to say.
Well, I don't need to tell the people. What is this? What can we expect? What is this all about?
Well, if your Jupiter is in Aries like mine is, then we are having our Jupiter return, which is pretty exciting, a pretty fun time. I'm sure Jade can probably speak more to it because it happened more recently, I think, because I won't get into how long it takes for Jupiter to go through all the signs. But anyways, Jupiter does like being in Pisces. That's its home sign. I just wanted to give that a little shout out because Jupiter in Pisces was, quite a vibe, but that's okay. Jupiter in Aries will still be fun. Fingers crossed, especially in terms of just like, I don't know. I feel like going for it and just like doing the thing. Aries sometimes has a bad rep for being like selfish and doing the things that, they want to do. But I think that that's okay, and putting a lot of energy towards things that we are passionate about and just like wanting to learn and grow, because Jupiter in those areas as well will be, I don't know, a good time. Definitely very different than Jupiter in Pisces, but still a good time.
Yeah, you could expect mostly like just really taking initiative, taking the lead, putting yourself first, and following your spontaneity. And again, we'll talk more about this later because May 10th is a little far from now, and also, it's one we want to discuss a little bit more. So we'll talk more, but something new to think about and start mentally preparing for if that's what your vibe is. I personally am very excited for this, despite the fact that it's going to cause a T-square to my chart and, oppose my North Node and oppose my 10th house and go over my Saturn. Nothing which is fun, but it's going to be my 4th house, and I would like a bigger apartment. So anyways, enough about me. May 16th. The last hurrah of Taurus season on May 16th at 12:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're a West Coaster or anyone who's just not on the East Coast, this may be May 15th. So if you see people posting that it's on May 15th, that is correct. If you see May 16th, that is also correct. It just probably depends on time zone. What on earth is happening at May 15th/16th? The lunar eclipse in Scorpio. This eclipse is, in my opinion, not fun. Just gonna be honest. This is about kind of letting go of control. This is about releasing, and whether that be to people, things, possessions, money, whatever it may be. But also this eclipse squares Saturn, so it could be feeling like you're fighting against what you think you should be doing, fighting against what you were told to do, feeling like what you're doing is wrong, having difficulty letting go of things that you should let go of.
Yeah, I got a metaphor because Scorpio, well, let me rewind. This is a full moon. Full moons bring about a lot of emotions. It's in a water sign. So naturally, we are going to be feeling very emotional. But what I can say is Scorpio it's kind of like a sign that kind of keeps to itself a little bit more. And it's a little bit more private. And Saturn sometimes has that similar vibe where it wants to like keep things in order and under control and contained. And what will happen if you are someone who is kind of like on that side of things and you're keeping everything in and you are keeping everything to yourself? Here's the metaphor. It's kind of like you have a bottle of soda and like you shook it up and then you're like slowly, this is like really dramatic, but like you're slowly taking off the top and you can already hear it like making that like sizzling noise. And like, once the top's off, the whole thing's going to explode. Again, maybe a very dramatic type of metaphor, but anyways, this is an eclipse. It's going to be intense. A lot of things might be coming up. You might not really want them to be coming up like that, but we need to find some type of like healthy way to release it and let go and have some type of outlet. It could be a creative outlet. It could be going for a walk. It could be, like we were talking about before, venting, journaling, I don't know, listening to podcasts, coloring. It could be a million things, but it's just really important that you have something for yourself so that you can, again, like release, let go, cleanse, maybe literally take like a nice long shower where you like exfoliate and do all of the steps. I don't know, you could take a bath, put some Epsom salt in it, whatever your vibe is, just making sure that you are prioritizing yourself and taking care of yourself and your emotions, your emotional self, because that deserves attention too.
Yeah, I think the real way to make the most of Taurus season, because as you heard, there's a Mercury retrograde. We've got some pretty rough eclipses. Jupiter goes into Aries. Like, it's really a full thing. Saturn square the North Node, a Pluto retrograde. Like, it's really a rough one. And self-care and self-love and grounding yourself, keeping yourself stable, grounded, are really going to be the things that help you get through it. Like, really embrace that Taurus energy and like get your feet heavily planted on the ground. Let yourself relax and do what you need to do for self-care. And then before you know it, it'll be Gemini season. That's the rundown on Taurus season. Next week, we're going to take a deeper dive into Mercury in Gemini and the upcoming solar eclipse in Taurus. So you definitely want to stay tuned for next week. And if you don't listen next week and your life changes dramatically, don't say we didn't tell you not to listen. Seriously, this is important stuff here. To stay in the loop with us as more things evolve during Taurus season and in the astrology in general, make sure you're following us on all social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at BLME The Stars. And we are also on YouTube if you prefer to listen to podcasts with the closed captions on. That option is there too as well. If you search Blame It on the Stars podcast on YouTube, we show up. That is all for now. Best of luck out there. And we'll see you all next Monday to talk all about the eclipse. Bye.